Hey there, thank you so much for listening to Something Super Spiritual. My name is Jeffrey Peck, and I am a psychic medium. If you are seeking conversation with loved ones on the other side, or discussion about spirituality, life after life, and anything in between, join me as we discuss all things spirit. We are collectively experiencing a spiritual awakening right now and recognizing that we are much, much more than we once believed. We don't die, and life doesn't end. We are eternal spiritual beings living in this crazy 3D virtual world of existence. Let's talk about it. Okay, Stephanie Lyra, I'm so happy to have you here on Something Super Spiritual, the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So, Stephanie and I know each other from a number of classes, years going back with Colby Rebel.
Yes.
And she became my sister in spirit. So,
absolutely.
So Stephanie, let's start at the beginning for you. Like, tell us, what was life like for you growing up? Like, have you always been connected to spirit in a way where you knew that something was different, something was there, you couldn't put your finger on it?
Sure. Yeah, and of course, like every medium has their own journey. I'm always slightly jealous of the mediums that were like, oh, I saw spirit when I was 5. And,
Totally.
and for me, that just was not the case
Totally.
at all. It came later for me in life for sure. But I will say that, it happens to everyone when it needs to happen. And now I realize that like, it happened to me later in life. However, now looking back, I do notice that there were things that were a little different about me that now makes sense. It's almost like getting like a diagnosis for something that I felt my entire life.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Yes.
Right. So I will say that like now looking back, like for example, I was an only child. And so my mom always thought it was a little weird that I could play with my American dolls or whatever dolls for like 7 hours straight and like not move. And now in hindsight, it's weird. I was probably talking to spirit, So it's like those little things. And also just like, I think I struggled too just growing up now that I know that I was an empath because I feel like I just knew things about people and like, or would just pick up on feelings and mistake them as my own. Or, I would just like weirdly know if like a boyfriend was lying or something like that. And I never knew why. And now it makes more sense.
Ooh, that's a superpower.
So, right. I mean, I think I ignored those ignored those feelings and learned my lesson. But they
Yes.
definitely were there and just like having like just feelings about people and tuning into energies and now I realize what was happening that I was not, normal.
So, what were the synchronicities and the experiences that led you to become aware of spirit in a way that you started to open your eyes, open your heart, and start to grow into it?
Sure. So I mean, I can talk about when it first started. Does that work
Yeah,
too? Like
yeah.
how it kind of led. So I'm in the entertainment industry too. So that's a big part of my life. And I was at work at the production company that I was at, and a coworker who I had never met came found me at the printer and he was like, hey, do you believe in mediums? And I thought my coworkers were playing a joke on me because talk about synchronicities. I was editing on a show for TLC called The Healer, which was about energy healing. So it was
Is that Charlie?
Yeah,
Charlie
yeah.
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got the amazing opportunity to edit on that show. So it was interesting to talk about synchronicities that I'm like watching the raw footage and watching this guy talk about like his gift in his hands and me realizing like, this this is kind of interesting. I kind of feel like similar things. And so anyways, long story short, while I'm on the show, I go to the printer that this coworker comes. I've never met him before. And he was like, hey, do you believe in mediums? And I was like, excuse me. And he was like, hey, I have, a friend here. And he gave me a description of a friend that passed that was very close to me in life. And I was just like shook. I was like, excuse me. And so he was like, can I go to your office? I'll give you, let me just write some stuff down for you. So he gave me a reading. I can totally take it. And at the end of it, he was like, Steph, I really feel pulled to tell you that I feel like this is a part of your calling. You should like really join a community or something, just to like go for it. And I was like, what? And so that was really the
Yeah.
beginning point. And it was wild because now I'm like looking at that printer. I'm like, God bless that ink because
No kidding.
because it really was like the piece of paper that changed my life. And now it's funny because that guy, he's also a medium and also works in television. And he's now a dear friend of mine too. But it was kind of like those synchronicities, right? Where you like least expect it, where I was editing on a healing show and then that happened. And then I joined a community and then it just kind of unfolded from
Oh,
there.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say too, if you don't mind me bringing another part of how it began, I do also feel, so growing up, I was really close to my grandmother. She was like a mother to me in a lot of ways. We lived together for like a big chunk of my life. And I do feel that once she passed, I also started getting, it was like these synchronicities would start to happen. So I feel like it was like a combination of like both things, like losing my grandmother and then meeting this friend like a few years later, that it kind of like, but bam, like just became like, just kind of began. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of us have that story of being awakened through trauma and the trauma of losing your grandmother.
Yeah.
That's the impetus for you in your story. And that's awesome. And then the synchronicities leading you up to be standing at that printer that day.
Right.
And it's so cool.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Where did you go? What did you do? Who did you see?
Yeah. So then I looked up, like where can I find a mediumship community? And I stumbled across Colby Rebels website and events. And I saw that she hosted these weekly circles. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sign up for this. I remember texting my friend at the time being like, hey, if I don't make it home, it's because I'm not okay because I'm joining a bunch of, like strangers who say that they talk to people who passed over. So, and it was almost like, I felt like I was like looking on Craigslist, you know what I mean? So it was like, and I wasn't,
Totally.
but it was like that kind of mentality. I was like, what am I doing? And when I walked in there, I instantly knew I was home. And so I really started my studies with Colby for quite a long time. And then I just kept meeting people from there. And that's how we met together.
Yes.
And so I feel like she really gave me the push that I needed to like really own this as a part of my life. And so for that, I'm forever thankful for that. So,
for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Stephanie and I met in at the end of May in 2019.
Yeah, which is so wild. That
Yes.
it's like,
so it's been a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
And she and I met at Colby Rebels weekend platform workshop.
Yes.
And
that's when you were just starting too, right?
I was about as fresh as you could be, and you were too. And the two of us are in front of that group of live, real public strangers, but look at how it worked for the two of us. I mean, it absolutely, it was the real deal.
Yes. 100%.
And it just opened my eyes. It opened your eyes. And I mean, I look back to that and we were terrified. We were terrified.
Yes. I think I cried that weekend.
Yeah. We were terrified, but we did it. And and here we are 3 years later.
Yes.
And I've been to Arthur Findlay. You just got back from Arthur Findlay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're always developing. This is not anything that it's like just boom, you learn it and you're off. No, this is a lifelong
Right.
development and unfolding.
100%. 100%.
So talk a little bit about your experience at Arthur Findlay. Like it's
Yeah.
so magical there. And I'm curious, and I know other people are curious to know what your experiences were like being in
Sure.
this, like our own little Hogwarts,
Yes.
and
Yes.
the magic that happens within as you are really tapping into spirit all day, every day for about 12 hours. So
Right.
what
Right.
was the magic like for you?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I had no idea like what I was signing up for. It was you that actually, motivated me to do so. So for that, I will always be thankful for.
Oh,
But I had no idea that it was 12 hours a day, full transparency. And when I got the schedule, I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, oh my God, I think I just signed up for like an army boot camp, but like for spirituality. And so I was like, oh my God, like this is going to be intense, but I was excited. It all came from a place of excitement, but I was going in blind,
yeah.
And so what I loved the most was never had I ever been in like one place where people from all over the world that come from all different backgrounds of life share, you know, the same, I don't want to say gift because I feel everyone has this gift, but I feel like shares the same, ideas and connection with spirit that I've
Mhm.
just never been used to before. So that in itself, like walking up and down the stairs at Arthur Findlay, I was like, where's my cape? I am Harry Potter. Like this is
It's
literally like,
true.
where's my wand? So I definitely that it took me like a day or two to adjust to be like, oh my gosh, like there are other people like me that live their normal lives, but also have this like amazing connection to spirit. And it is normal. And that to me was like the most exciting thing being at Arthur Findlay for
Yeah.
sure.
Everybody speaks the same language and
Yeah,
everybody's
exactly.
there without this surprise. It's like it is so normal.
Exactly.
It's just totally
Exactly.
normal.
Yes, yes. And I feel like there's no judgment, there's no
No.
ego. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, cool. You talk to spirit. Awesome. So do I. And so what about you? And then like you just like also connect on a different way while, like also learning. And I totally love and agree with what you said. Like we are constantly in a state of growing and evolving with this gift. And so I feel like we all are never going to know all the answers. So you just got to continue growing and learning. And I've already signed up again. So I want to I want to
Awesome.
go back because I just feel like, yeah, and to be able to study under such incredible tutors there that have such incredible experience. Shout out, to Chris Drew and Lynn Prober, and Simone was
Yes.
there as well. And we had an
Mhm.
amazing assistant teacher, Wendy. I mean, it was just such an honor to be in their space learning from honestly like the best, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like.
totally.
So yeah, so it was quite an experience that I'll never forget, and all thanks to you for telling me and giving me that push to go.
Oh, well, you were supposed to be there. You were absolutely
Oh,
supposed to be
thanks.
there. So, what then? Tell us about your experiences, like during the day as you're doing the exercises and the practice
Yeah.
sessions and the. Did you have any like mind blowing ahas
Yeah.
within your own growth?
Oh, 100%. For me, it just felt like, and although we never know like where I'm a control person. So I love to be like, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years?
Mhm.
And, going into it, I felt a little like lost in my life path, if I'm being fully honest. But
Mhm.
then being there, it was like, hey, you don't need to know what the next 10 steps are of your life. Like, this is where you're at, and this is going to be a part of your life, and it's going to be a journey, and to just surrender to the unknown and just take it step by step. So for me, it was very healing being there. And that was my biggest aha moment, was like, not necessarily like, oh yeah, like that was a wonderful reading where I felt super tapped in. It was more just knowing that like I am in the right place. I'm right where I need to be. I know that mediumship is a part of my life and I don't need to figure it all out right now, but I know
Mhm.
that right now I'm supposed to be here learning and meeting these new people. And that to me was my biggest takeaway. And of course, like I feel
Mhm.
like it was you that told me like, hey, the Wi-Fi spotty, but the spiritual Wi-Fi is like crazy there. And
Totally.
so I definitely felt that. And I, of course, like had those moments of like, whoa, like I've never been able to do, like get a date or get like I got someone's the name of their wedding song with a partner that had passed. Like, so there were definitely those moments of like, whoa, we're tapping in at a different level here and you're learning and growing.
Mhm.
But I will say my biggest takeaway was more just surrendering to this life path and to just accepting that I am a medium and to kind of embrace that. So that was my biggest
Oh,
takeaway.
that is beautiful. It gives me chilly bumps. That is
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Thank
So,
you.
what do you feel like? What do you feel like you overcame while you were there?
Yeah.
What
I
were the challenges you were running into, stumbling in within that you
yeah,
felt like you addressed and overcame when you were there?
sure. I feel that I overcame fear. And fear will always still creep in. It's not like it's never going to, but I feel like no longer am I fearful to be like who I am and with this gift and just owning it. And then
Mhm.
also being able to be confident enough that I can make myself shine and be okay with that because I tend to be a little reserved and like introverted in that way. And it
Yep.
makes me uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so being at Arthur Finley, it felt so supportive and everyone was just like, no, Steph, like this is what you're meant to do. Like you shine, we all shine. Everyone has to shine because that's how the world gets a better light and a better place,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think just embracing myself, embracing my gift, and it's okay to be confident in it and, just fully commit to it. And that was kind of my biggest,
That's
my
awesome.
biggest thing I have achieved. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, speaking of fears, what
Hmm.
were your fears?
Oh my goodness. I think there's so many.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? I feel like you and I've talked about this so many times and so like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're each other's like life gurus in a lot of
Totally.
ways. um, but I feel like the biggest fear is just going into this unknown, right? Like, and I still have my career in the entertainment industry, which I do love so much and very passionate about it. So I'm not like, oh, just gonna not do that anymore. I do think in a lot of ways that's what has helped me be able to do this, So I
Mhm.
feel like the paths will always kind of like align and cross. But I will say one of the biggest fears though was just owning it, embracing it, and not caring what other people think.
Mhm.
And to just own it and not be so insecure about it or be worried that I'm like freaking people out by talking about it,
Right.
And being at Arthur Finley, it really like made me realize that no, this is who you are. So if people, whether at work, your personal or, family life can't handle it, that's on them. That's not you. Like you
Yeah.
can't stop being like who you are. Right. So I think a biggest fear I had before that experience, and just as I'm growing, was fearful of what other people would think. And then also just fearful, like, what am I doing? Like, am I really connecting? Like, why me? And I think that over time, the confidence starts building. And then you just kind of be like, okay, like, it's that trust with spirit, right?
Totally.
Like, oh,
Mhm.
that's another thing, Jeffrey. I do
Mhm.
feel that after Arthur Finley, I feel like I trust spirit more. I really
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
So even like the readings I've had, like since I've been back, I feel just a little bit looser in the sense that I'm like, okay, yeah, like you do readings, like, yeah, instead of like so fearful of
Mhm.
it. And of
Mhm.
course, the fear still always comes into some capacity. You're like, oh, is
Sure.
spirit going to be there?
Yep. Yep. Oh
Like,
yeah.
hopefully, hope they're going to be there. Um, and they are, right?
Always.
But I
Yes.
feel like the trust with spirit is something that's I'm, and always continue working on, but has definitely gotten stronger and more affirming.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So your readings, I know that you focus a lot more on the psychic readings. So
Mhm.
talk a little bit about, and I don't think we've even addressed this yet in any of the shows that we've done. So
Sure.
why don't you talk a little bit about the difference between mediumship and
Yeah.
psychic?
Sure, sure. And it's interesting. I do both, but I tend to get a lot of hybrids. So I feel like that, like everyone has their own thing.
Hmm.
But for me, and again, every psychic medium, works differently as we talk about a lot. But
Yes.
for me, I will do mediumship. And obviously that's when we're like tuning into your loved ones who have crossed over. And then with psychic readings, I do feel like you're still working with spirit, right? So there is still that like connection. It feels very like a similar style of reading. Like I'm still using my same tools and toolbox. I'm just, I'm just tuning into someone's soul to soul. So for me, my psychic readings are more like, hey, what's happening in your life right now? What does this person need to hear with the most? And like, let's talk about it. And I will, of course, um, initiate that conversation, right? Like I'm going to tune in, see what I'm getting, and
Yes.
then we unfold, validate. And then, like what are your next steps? Like what are if we're talking about a relationship or career, like what is it about that relationship that's working or not, or career, and like what is the best next step for that person? And
Hmm.
that's where I've been kind of tailoring my readings, because I am a firm believer that we all have this thing called free will, and not everything, as Lynn Probert taught me, is written in stone, right? So
Hmm.
I feel like, you know, I don't know that I can tell you what's going to happen in 5 years, but I can tune into what feels good now, and let's get some tools to like get you where you need to be so that in that 5 years you are where you want to be. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
totally. Hmm.
Okay. So
Hmm.
that's like how my readings, how I've been tailoring them.
Yeah, a lot of people have the misperception that they come to a psychic for future predictions.
Right, right,
And
right.
that's not what it's about.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree. I feel like and sure, as we both are psychic mediums, right? Like, of course, we're going to get some, like, some hits or like things, and that very well do happen. And I do feel that's a little bit like, it's nice to validate and good part of the equation. But I do feel that we need to debunk this like crystal ball
Mhm.
theory that you come see a psychic that, when am I going to get married? When am I going to have a baby? Like, what are all these things, when you actually need to really focus on where you're at now and uncover where you're at now and figure out what you need to do now to get to those places, right? Because
Yes.
if I just tell you, like, yeah, Jeffrey, you're going to get married, it's going to be in 5 months. And well, like, I also feel like I am stunting you living your like life organically, because if I told you like you're going to meet a guy in March, on March 15th, and then if you meet someone like on March 13th, you might be like, wait, this is not
Nope,
my
that's not
person
him. That's
because
not him.
Stephanie
Nope.
told me it's on the 15th.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah. And again, that's just my view on it, right?
Yep.
We've talked about this. So I
Yep.
feel like I respect all views, but for me and the way I work, it's more of like an intuitive reading, soul to soul, figuring out where you are now and where is like the next step that we can take you to hit those major life points.
Yeah, and that's a really great point because even though the energy of somebody meeting somebody in the next 6 months may be
Right.
there,
Right.
there are so many possible trajectories within
Totally.
here to then, and so many different free wills from so many different people that between here and then, and it's yeah, that's a
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and again, everyone works differently and it can have, like different opinions on those. But for me, that's like how I like to treat my readings. So
and you
yeah.
guys, Stephanie's psychic readings are absolutely out of this world.
Oh,
Everybody
thank you,
that I have
Jeffrey.
sent to you just comes away blown away.
Oh, thank you,
You know,
Jeffrey.
Stephanie is able to tap in and she knows like what is your number one first priority, what's your number two priority, what's your number three priority, and she just bangs them all out in order of importance. And
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I mean, that's what they all say. That's what I'm just repeating
You're
what I'm being
so
told.
sweet. I'm like, pressure's on now. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Jeffrey.
But
That's
it's
very
true.
sweet.
It's so true.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, I appreciate your support. That's so sweet. And I also feel like too, I also do hybrid sessions too, which we've talked about, where you start off mediumship and then go psychic too. So that's also another avenue too of what I provide. But yeah.
Where you start out with one and end with the other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you ever find that they support each other? Like, let's say whoever you bring through in spirit might be supporting whatever issue, topic, career, relationship, whatever that comes through in the psychic reading, where it all just kind of like supports.
Sure, 100%. I really do feel that, let's say I was tapping into your grandfather first and we had that reading, and then oftentimes a grandfather will kind of show me like what's going on in your life, and then it just segues, right? And then it's like, okay, with love, like your grandfather, I feel like he's still around helping guide that session. And obviously I just made that up, you know what I mean? But like as an example,
yeah, I totally get it.
So I do feel that spirit, it's kind of like a wave, right? Like it's like starting off mediumship, going into psychic, and then they're kind of like helping and kind of, but then you just, you take it to a different vibration, right? So then it's like becomes more of a conversation, right? But I do absolutely believe that our loved ones are helping in those sessions as well. 100%.
Completely.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like people to know about hold on. Hold on. I just had all this stuff go and I just lost my
That's okay. I know what I'd want people to think about, like about mediumship and just overall, and about gifts, if you want me to answer that.
Okay, give me the question and I'll ask you.
Is that my television coming in, Jeffrey?
Yes.
My producer hat coming in. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, the question I'm thinking is like for people who are wondering whether they like have the gift or not, because I'm really passionate about.
Ooh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so for people who are wondering whether they have psychic abilities, spiritual capabilities, I know you and I both believe that we all have this.
Yes.
But for those people that are wondering, I believe that they're feeling it, and there is a higher capacity. If they are wondering, if they're feeling it, they're being pinged. So what do you have to tell these people who are starting to go, there's more to this?
Yeah, 100%. I love this topic so much because like we've talked about, first and foremost, I feel everyone has a gift. And I think that's so important to talk about because, and not everyone has the same gift. And that's what makes it like, okay, because there's room for everyone to express themselves, and not everyone is going to be a medium and a psychic professionally, but they could use it in their acupuncture practice, as a doctor, as a therapist, as whichever, like working in your day-to-day. If you're at a grocery store, you could use your intuition in so many different ways, and all different types of jobs. So I feel like it's, I always say it's like we can all learn to speak Spanish, but we can't all be fluent, right? So you and I just happen to be fluent, but everyone can learn Spanish. So I think it's really important that if you start to feel a little nudge, or I don't know, I have some girlfriends now that are like, oh my God, I think I get premonitions now. And I was like, yeah, 100% you do, And so I feel like it's like running, like you just like need to like trust that first muscle, like trust that, okay, I can run this half or walk this first half mile and then walk another and keep pushing it forward. And then you'll be so surprised as to how you can trust your gut the most, and get stronger with that. So I feel that if you're feeling like that nudge or ping, to not be scared of it, because it's so easy for our logical mind to just doubt it, right? Be like, wait a second, like I just got this hit, but I'm going to ignore that because this is fake.
Yeah. Logical override. Total logical
Exactly. Oh, I
override.
love
Mhm,
that. Yeah,
mhm,
exactly. So I feel like I say go for it. Like, why not take an intuition class? Like Colby has plenty. So that's a good place
mhm,
you can start. Or like just look up ways to, maybe take like 10 minutes out of your day and sit with yourself and really be like, hey, universe, like, what do you need me to learn today? And just like a simple practice to help you start like tuning into yourself, right? And I
mhm.
actually feel like Chris was the one that taught me that, so I can't take the credit for all of that. But it is just like working on growing your intuition and growing, expanding your gut instincts. And I feel like don't be scared of it, I guess, is to wrap it all up.
Do you meditate?
You know, I wish I was one of those people that were like, I meditate every single day for like an hour. I am not that person. It takes me, I have to really, it's like a chore. I'm not going to lie. I'm sounding like the worst spiritual person.
No, you're not.
But I will say it's extremely important. And I'm trying to just do 10 minutes a day now of just sitting in silence. But
Mhm,
I will say I do love walking on the beach. And for me, that is like a huge meditative experience for me, is just putting on music and just walking. So I've been encouraged by Lynn to actually walk on the beach and take off the headphones. So
mhm,
keeping it like in silence too. So it's really just about like finding what works for you, because I'm someone who cannot sit still. Like
mhm.
that is not me. So
Understood.
whether it's, yeah, like
Mhm.
running or walking. So it's like finding what works for you. And you know what's kind of funny, Jeffrey, I will say, one of my favorite things, total sidebar, is mascara. Like if the world was ending and someone was like, you have one thing to pick, what would it be for survival? It would be my mascara. Like that is it. Like that's all I need. And so I realized that when I'm putting, it's like a routine for me in the morning. And when I'm putting on mascara, I tend to be the most open, and spirit will talk to me while I'm putting on mascara. Like I will literally get life advice from my spirit guides when I'm putting on mascara. So also God bless the mascara.
That's awesome. Well, it's
Yeah.
about being present in that
Yes.
moment, open and receptive. And that's what you're doing. You're just focusing on one thing, and that's putting on your mascara.
Exactly.
Where in
Exactly.
meditation, you're asked to focus on your breath. That's what you're focusing on.
Right.
But for so many
Right.
of us, it's just so hard to sit still. It's just so
Yes.
hard to sit still.
It's so hard.
So when you're out walking on the beach, again, you're focusing on one thing. You're just walking on the beach in silence,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
it's a moving meditation. I tell people all the time, if it's difficult for you to sit still, and let's say you love to garden, okay, you know what?
Yes.
Go out, get on your hands and knees and pull weeds. That is
100%.
meditation. That's a moving meditation.
100%. That, and don't get me wrong, like I do sleep meditations every night. I will
Mhm.
say it helps me go to sleep. If you're someone who's kind of wired like
Yep.
I am,
Mhm.
I do a sleep meditation. It really knocks me out, and that really helps. So I do love guided, but I agree with you. I feel like we also need to debunk this myth that you have to like sit in silence for 45 minutes or an hour every day in order to like expand your gift. And I just feel like spirits, at least for me, doesn't work in that way, but I do
Right.
agree that you do need to have some sort of like meditation process. So just figuring out what that is for you is what's right, because that's what works for you.
Even if it's putting on your mascara.
Even if it's putting on your mascara. Now maybe that should be my new logo. It's like a mascara.
The
Stephanie the
mascara wearing
medium.
medium.
Or maybe that'll be my merchandise one day, Jeffrey.
Yes.
Mascara, Stephanie's mascara. Watch out, Kylie Jenner. Stephanie's products are coming in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for people who are unsure about their gifts,
Mm-hmm.
their whether it's real or not,
Sure.
where they should go, what they should do? What do you suggest people? What do you think? What do you say that their first step is?
Yeah. Well, the first step I say is do your best to not have to think about the 100th step of like, okay, I feel like I have all these things, so I need to be the best medium in the world tomorrow, or so, like have that expectation. And I'm just realizing that it's not about being the best. It's about being the best for yourself and being present with where you're at in your journey. And so I feel like a lot of times we can be afraid of our own power. And I also feel like my biggest advice is to just not be afraid of yourself, because you're so powerful and you are your most powerful guide, no matter I feel like this is not a good thing to say when I'm giving readings, but I'm like, no matter how many readings you can get, at the end of the day, it's like trusting yourself and your path. And I feel like if you feel that nudge, just go for it and you'll see where it will unfold. The sky's the limit. And Lord knows in this climate, we need so many people to shine their own specific light in this world,
Totally. Mm-hmm.
So my biggest piece of advice is to not be scared of yourself and scared of your power, because that is a gift. And so, so I say, just go for it.
That's beautiful. Yes. Yes. And where can people find you? How do they find you on social media? I know you're on a few platforms, but where are you most found?
Yes. I am on Instagram at Stephanie Lyra Medium, and also online on my website at stephanielyra.com. And you can just book your session there. So I would say go to the website over Instagram.
And who inspires you?
Ooh. Oh, that's such a good question. You know what, Jeffrey? I can't pick one person, because I feel that so many people in my life inspire me in a lot of different ways, including yourself. But I feel like I was just talking to someone about this. I love the term. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit random, but do you know the book Wild by Cheryl Stray?
Yes.
And she walked the PCT, and that book's one of my favorite books of all times. And something that I learned from that is through her journey, she met what's called these trail angels. And on the PCT, you get trail angels who help you like with food or give you a ride to the next stop or whatever. And I love that term so much, because I realize I have so many incredible trail angels in my life. And so, I honestly am just inspired by everyone who I've just come across along the way, and of course, shout out to Colby, because she really was the one that gave me my wings to really go for this. So, she was my, start trail angel. And then it's like meeting you and my other friends, and then even meeting just like coworkers who support me on this journey. When I came out to my coworkers, when I was like so nervous, like, how are they going to take me seriously? And they even book readings, so it's like everyone kind of like inspires me to just like believe in myself and to keep moving forward. So yeah. Does that answer your question?
Well, it totally does. And it speaks to the fear that we go through when we're taking our first steps with spirit. Right. And really starting to learn and understand our spiritual senses and understand what they feel like and what they mean and how do I sense them and how are they for me. And you've got these people that come across your path who believe in you enough that keeps you going, because you don't believe in yourself yet. So you have those people that believe in you more than you do yourself. And it's that just like, they're part of my trail angels, you're talking about that, just because without that, I mean, the insecurities, the fears, all of that's just it's so easily to be taken over by. Right. And when you've got those people that are just, holding you up, lifting you up energetically, that's so amazing.
Yeah. So that's such a eloquent way of putting it. And that's exactly how I feel.
What else do you want to talk about?
I was trying to be professional. It's so hard for us to keep quiet together. I was like, wait, do I talk? Do I not talk? I feel like, I don't know. I really loved yeah, I feel like that kind of summed it up, right? It's like the trail angels and things like
Totally. I love where this went.
that.
I
Yes,
love where this went.
same.
It's so different than any of the other conversations that I've had yet. And
Oh,
it's so,
really?
yeah, it's so
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, it's so
Oh,
awesome.
awesome.
Um, do you have any readings that stand out in your mind that left you completely blown away as you were witnessing the springboard of healing for the people in front of you?
Sure, sure. Well, to be honest, I can't think of like one specifically, but just as a collective, I feel like it's interesting because I'm thinking about it. That's a good question,
That's okay. You can
Jeffrey.
take you can take some time. I meant to ask you this
I feel like
before.
you told me to prep this and I did not.
That's
And then
okay.
I feel like you told me about this, Rick. I'm gonna ask you this question, so think about it. Um, that's a good question.
Like whether it was that you've heard me talk about the traumatic apologies that come through,
Right.
or
I hear you
or
saying,
um um
which is so, I feel
or
like such a neat part of your gift for
yeah,
sure.
or like the people that let's say desperately wanted to be there at their side when they passed, but they couldn't, and they've been
Right.
holding on to grief and guilt, and
Right.
because they didn't.
Right. I I think my biggest aha moments or favorite moments just as a whole with readings um is when you get something so specific and you just see the person's energy just go into a mode of fully trusting you because you just got something that was such an aha that like it could be as simple as like bananas, you know what I mean? And then be like, oh my gosh, like we had a banana tree together and that was our thing together. And so it's in that moment I get the most excited because I'm like, oh my God, I am connecting to another world that is present. And how exciting is that, right? To be able to be a messenger, right?
Totally.
So it's like I just feel like we're messengers to help people know that there is so much more to this life than we know and to bring them that healing that their loved ones are still there. I think that's like I think my biggest like aha moment, I would
Mhm,
say,
mhm,
are those little moments. And because I also find like the little moments are the bigger aha moments,
mhm,
right? And
mhm,
to see someone just fully trust you and then all of a sudden maybe have a little bit of their life perspective change, right? Because
mhm,
sometimes you'll get skeptics, which I love getting skeptics because I always love talking about this subject just as a whole. So
yeah.
I feel like when you have someone who is a skeptic, it's so exciting because, first of all, they just signed up. So they're like, hey, I'm already slightly open to something, even though I might not come across that way,
Mhm,
And so those are also more of my favorites because, yes, they're challenging. But once you see that like energy shift change of like, whoa, how did you know that? How did you bring in my mother? She would have been, I just did that yesterday. And then there's like an energy lift. And you're like, whoa, okay, I got him. Like that gives me chills even just speaking about that,
seriously, it's true.
right?
Mhm,
Like it's like, whoa, you just, you may not have changed everything, but you just changed someone's life, in
mhm.
a new small way.
It does, and that is a
So
springboard in
yeah.
itself. It really inspires hope,
Yes,
and it
exactly.
inspires that wonder and the
Yes.
curiosity,
Yes.
and yeah, it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like how exciting is that? Like to know that your loved ones are still next to you or on a psychic reading, like if I tune in and I'm like, hey Jeffrey, like you took a bubble bath today and went, you know, read like your favorite book, you'd be like, oh, like how did
Yep.
you know? Like I feel like it's in those moments where there is hope that there is a higher power in whatever that is for you, right? That is
Yep.
watching over you and guiding you, right? So, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. love you.
We've got some good content here.
We do it? Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
We've got
I
some
totally
great
feel that.
content.
I feel like you and I can talk forever
Totally.
about this subject.
I mean,
yes.
honestly.
Yes. And also, you know what I come to find, Jeffrey? Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No,
if
no.
You were about to say something.
No.
Another thing I'm realizing too is that a lot of people just want to talk about what your perspective is on the other side and life. So I've been finding too, like the more I grow and become open to this, like people that you would have never guessed would like be interested in just asking you a simple question about it, that kind of like grows tenfold. And just being able to like talk about it and share what my version is of like the afterlife or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of cool because you start to realize that a lot of people are open to this subject. They just never had permission to talk about it.
And what is your version?
Oh, my version is, I feel like we said earlier, like we're all on a journey and we don't have all the answers now, but I totally, without a doubt, feel that there's life after death, 100%. And I do feel that, do I know what that world looks like? No, but I do feel that there is a higher power, and it can be whoever you want to name it. But I do feel there's something watching over us and guiding us. And yeah, that's what I believe. So, and I'm a true believer. Oh, this is fun. I'm a true believer that as humans, we focus too much on what we can see and not what we can feel. And so when a lot of people are like, oh, aliens or, other beings, like, I want to be able to see them. And, I don't know what my views are. Sorry, the word alien is so controversial, but I just mean like
it's okay.
Spirit or whatever you want to call it. Like, I feel like if you just take a minute and just start to really trust how you feel, you're already tuning in to other possibilities around you instead of us humans being so fixated on having to see it. So my other belief system is like just knowing that I'm so open to any possibility because you just feel that there's something more than what we know, right? And to not just rely on your eyes. So yeah.
Believing is seeing.
Exactly. There you go. That's so good, Jeffrey. That was like the perfect tagline. Like if there was a subject line to the conversation, it was that. Believing is seeing. So yeah, so I just feel like whatever it is that you believe, if you feel that, that is your truth. So yeah.
Do you have any last words of inspiration? Last words of wisdom? Any little words that you'd like to impart on our listeners?
Ooh, I think my biggest one is that I feel like life is too short to not be living your best life. And I feel like there's so often times that we're doing what we have to do instead of what like we would want to do or need to do. And don't take me wrong, like having your job is important and doing it, like the daily muggle things that you need to do is absolutely important and gives you purpose, right? But I do feel that my biggest advice is life is too short to put off that trip that you've always wanted to go to, or try a new class on meditation, or write that book that you've always been wanting to do, because I feel like when you start to put things off, it's like you're not being present, And so my biggest piece of advice is to just go with what path makes you the happiest and what path brings you the most like fulfillment, and just just doing things that like fuel your tank. I just think it's so important because I know that and we talk about this too, like it can be like, the daily routines of life of getting like, adulting, right? And how adulting cannot be fun. But my biggest advice is just to remember to sprinkle some sort of thing that makes you happy on a daily basis, because that's what life is about. Because before you know it, life goes by so fast and you're like, wait, I should have written that book. Oh my God, I didn't take that trip. Or, oh my God, I always wanted to do yoga, but I didn't. And now, I don't have good legs. I don't know what it is, So my biggest advice is to just go for it, be fearless, and own your power.
Beautifully stated. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey. I have the best time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you
I feel
so
so
much for
honored
being
to
here.
be here.
I love you to smithereens and beyond.
I love you too. I love that. That could be our new phrase. I love you to smithereens and beyond. Oh.
Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, and to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.